I want to take you back in time, back when we were still in single digits of age, arguing over who was stronger in Wizard 101, flexing our Club Penguin igloos, or grinding in RuneScape like our lives depended on it. Before Call of Duty, Halo, or whatever the hell FIFA was doing, MMOs were the talk of the playground, and as a kid, I was obsessed. I've always liked the idea of a forever game, a digital world you can always come back to. And for some reason, for me, that was Black Ops. Until they dropped sequel after sequel like it was an annual chore. What? I was a kid. Any game was a forever game if I can play it more than just 10-20 hours in total. But MMOs, they were different, bigger, and more alive. Being a 2000s kid with parents who thought monthly game subscriptions were basically highway robbery, I grew up avoiding anything with a price tag. Mostly. They didn't stop me from sneaking their credit card to spend way too much adventure coins on AQ Worlds. Don't ask. Still, despite my resentment towards subscriptions, I couldn't help but keep an eye on MMOs. They promised something more. Worlds worth sinking thousands of hours into, anonymous people that may or may not be featured in the next Me Too movement, and the feeling of creating my very own skin in a world that I dreamed to live in from time to time. Till of course I watched Game of Thrones. Free games existed, sure, but they rarely scratched the same itch. Some were repetitive, others leaned way too hard into loot boxes and slot machine mechanics. Most couldn't quite replicate the magic of the big names. MMORPG, or massively multiplayer online role-playing game, are games that are built for immersion, designed to be second lives. You can fight bosses, run dungeons, craft gear, roleplay, or just sit in town and chat. And most importantly, fish! Some of those features are planned by devs, some come straight from the community, and they evolve, or at least they should. Expansions, patches, balance changes, entire metas rising and falling, theory crafting builds, guessing where the story will go next, and the likes. It takes time, money, and an army of devs to pull off. The Riot MMO, for example, might actually drop before GTA 6, or become its next meme. Who am I kidding, those two games are never gonna see the light of day. But here's the problem. As much as I love MMOs, I can't shake this feeling that they feel outdated. Not in their ambition, but in their execution. So, why is that? You were expecting a face reveal? MMOs were groundbreaking because they gave us something that we've never seen before, a living, breathing world. You weren't just playing a game, you were stepping into another universe with thousands of people at the same time. But in this modern era, that magic feels harder to find, and that is for a varied number of reasons. The first reason is pacing versus modern attention span. Old MMOs were slow, and that was the point. You didn't mind grinding because the world was interesting. The people were engaging, and it felt like progress. Now, we live in the TikTok era, with short bursts of dopamine. MMOs didn't adapt fast enough, and instead of redesigning the genre's core loop, many just sped it up, monetized it. The second reason is subscription models versus free-to-play monetization. Games used to charge a sub because they offered long-term value. Allegedly. Now we've got free-to-play MMOs, which sound great until you hit pay-to-win cash shops, gacha-style drop rates, the usage of FOMO in predatory ways, and energy systems. Suddenly, your game feels more like a job or a chore rather than, I don't know, a game. The third reason is lack of innovation. Many modern MMOs still chase Warcraft's 2004 formula. Hotbar combat, fetch quests, kill 10 boars, repeat. Games like Final Fantasy XIV broke through by refining that loop. Well, kinda. But too many others just feel like reskins of something we've already played 100 times over. The fourth reason is community fracturing. MMOs thrive on community, but with sharded servers, cross-play issues, toxicity, and solo-focused progression, those very things have chipped away at the social glue that held these games together. Which isn't a bad thing to people who shit themselves at the sight of other people, but MMOs should give leeway to people for socialism. But the thing that made MMOs MMOs such a magical experience for players at the time was the feeling that you were progressing through challenges together rather than against one another, like you and your classmates going against the same bullshit exam of basic chemistry. Of course, there are some PvP aspects to the games, but it was not PvP oriented the way most of other popular games were back then. You didn't need to speedrun dungeons or follow min-max builds to have fun. You could log in and just exist in the world, hang out in the commons area of Wizard 101, hop around in RuneScape just to see what people were wearing, or pull up to someone's igloo in Club Penguin just to flex your furniture game. And it wasn't all about being the hero. You could be the crafter, the healer, the merchant, or the guy who just sat in town with a cool hat and typed in all caps. Every player had a role, not just in the combat system, but in the culture of the game, even though most people would see those moments as mega cringe. What made MMOs beautiful wasn't just the gameplay, it was the sense of identity. You weren't just playing as a character, you were that character. Even if they were a pixelated mess with 12 frames of animation and a quest log full of broken English. And what's wild is that even the jankiest MMOs still had heart. Toontown, Neopets, Free Realms, these weren't mechanical masterpieces, but they oozed with charm. They invited you in with warmth and kept you there with community. They didn't ask for much, they just wanted you to stay a while, albeit with a certain highway robbery system. That's what's missing today. MMOs didn't used to be about efficiency, they were about presence. While MMOs were marathon games, the world changed drastically to mostly focus on sprints rather than marathons, where people were to look up guides to get things done faster without room for error, search the internet for meta builds to not be seen as the outlier of fault, download DPS meters to manage who is and who isn't the weak link of the bunch, and of course, what I like to call SFAS, short form attention span. Suddenly, the slow cooking that made MMOs so enjoyable became frustrating. Lockouts or fabricated methods of gatekeeping to hold players from burning themselves out was the double-edged sword that slowly made people feel fed up, because people weren't exploring anymore. They were optimizing. MMOs didn't really know how to keep up. Some games just added boosts and battle passes to skip the grind. Others made everything drop faster. But in trying to speed things up, they accidentally erased the feeling of earning anything. But there is also this fine line of, is it really worth grinding the said thing for this said reward? And more often than not, they aren't really that worth, unless you're going for complete optimization or completionism. And of course, other things like how monetization ate the soul. When games like Warcraft and 14 ask for payment to have the game and then a monthly fee to log into the game, alongside paying for the next expansion every 2 to 3 years, give or take, and on top of that having a cosmetic store with things that were free on events or outfits worn by titular characters, like I get it, money is a very crucial thing for game developers to have, but when all these things are asked for and we receive this kind of cutscene in return, it feels undeserved for the money a company asks for from millions of players worldwide. Among other things, like the fact that the design of an MMO has stagnated for reusing the same design strategy for 2 decades now. Queue for a dungeon, fetch an item, kill a boar 10 times. I know this is what one really popular MMO did, but other MMOs can be risky and try new things for a change. And in all honesty, there have been a handful of games that have done that too, albeit with their own issues alongside the solutions they have come up with. I'm looking at you, New World. This design worked in 2004 because it was new, but in 2025, it just feels like a copy-paste design. Even when games try to innovate, it often ends up feeling like the same loop with different paint. In the end, players burn out faster, newbies bounce off the genre entirely, and veterans end up chasing nostalgia more than they actually chase fun. Not every MMO fell off though. Some games, whether through smart design, stubborn dedication, or complete reinvention, actually managed to evolve without becoming soulless. They remembered what MMOs are supposed to be, about people, presence, and purpose. Like Final Fantasy XIV's Rebirth, old school RuneScape's nostalgia with a pulse, Warframe's not so much of an MMO but still very close enough, or Guild Wars 2, the MMO that hates grind. Obviously, the genre isn't dead, it just got bloated, but some of the previously mentioned games are proof that MMOs still have a chance so long long as they either adapt to change or respect the player's time, and obviously their money. Time and money are not interchangeable. MMO players are a different breed. We're not just looking for a game, we're looking for a world, something we can live in, escape to, and maybe even leave a mark on. That's why when people say just play something else after an MMO burns them out, it doesn't land. Because for MMO players, it's not that simple. We don't want another game. We want home. Yes, we are delusional. At the core of almost every MMO player is this one fantasy, the forever game. A game we can stick with, grow in, make friends with, maybe even become someone else. And MMOs were one of the first genres to offer that. You created a character, leveled them up, geared them out, maybe joined the guild, and that was your identity. It wasn't just about gameplay, it was about belonging. It was suspension of disbelief. That's why MMO players are constantly chasing that feeling, that first time, that old magic, whether it's through nostalgia servers, new releases, or coming back after a long break. We're always searching, and the worst part is the fact that this is a feature and not a bug. At the end of the day, the MMO mindset is this. We're not looking for content, we're looking for meaning. MMOs at their best give us structure, freedom, community, purpose, identity, routine, and even a sense of legacy. That's not something you just replace with a new game. That's why we stay. That's why we burn out. That's why we come back. It is quite literally a second life that feels more fulfilling than our actual real lives. So, what does the next great MMO need to be? If I were to sum it up in a single sentence, it would be a modern MMO needs to be a social sandbox with systems that reward time invested and not time sunk, and a world that feels worth living in, not just playing through. A game that makes you want to waste your time, not a game that makes you feel like you're wasting your time. I know I've been a little harsh on MMOs in this video, but the truth is I wouldn't be talking about any of this if I didn't care. MMOs shaped my childhood. They shaped me. They were more than just games. They were places I escaped to after school. Places where I met strangers who became friends, even if just for a little time. Places that gave me goals, identities, routines, even when everything else in life felt chaotic. And I think a lot of us still carry that with us. Even if we don't play anymore, even if we say we're done with the game, even if we uninstall, we never really let go. Because deep down, we're still waiting for that game, the one that gets it right, the one that feels like home again. And I don't know when that game is coming. Maybe it's Ashes of Creation, maybe it's Riot's MMO, maybe it's something small from a dev we've never heard of, or maybe it's just a better version of what we already have. But I do know this, the moment it hits, we'll all be there, logging in, making new characters, getting lost again, together. So to the developers working on the next big MMO, please don't just chase numbers, don't copy what worked in 2004, make something that matters. Something with heart. We're ready. We're just waiting. Now, I know this isn't the usual, but I thought it would be fair to show myself in a more human way when having a conversation that feels more from the heart. But hopefully I didn't disappoint you the same way I did my family. But anyways, I'd like to thank my Patreons for their incredible support. Here are the G poses that I have cooked up for you acidic fellas, and I will see you in the next video. Damn, he's fucking cooked, isn't he? Also, there is another one, but she's asleep.